Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that covers all things marketing. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast gives you the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. Whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand, you've come to the right place. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast starts now.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. On today's episode, I am giving you 10 different content ideas and showing you how you can utilize them on Instagram, Twitter, and on your website. Now, your website could also be in place of a Facebook page or a YouTube page, basically anywhere you direct customers to get more information. That is where your leads are created. So the point of this podcast is not to show you how to reuse your content. If you care about that, go listen to the Reduce, Reuse Marketing Podcast episode I did a few weeks ago. Instead, this is to show you how you can take one idea and produce 3 different types of content with it. So let's jump right into our list. Number 1, DIY product ideas. So I've definitely mentioned this idea before, but basically we all have a product. If you're listening to this podcast, you sell a product. For me, my product is this podcast and how I sell it. For you, it could be coffee, tea, soap, sheets, picture frames, even art. So if you have a product, even if your product is yourself, what are the different ways you can use your product? So now obviously this becomes trickier and trickier depending on what your product is. For people who sell coffee, perhaps a different way or an unconventional way you can use your product is by making the coffee into a facial scrub or using it in different types of lattes or other more fancy drinks than just black coffee. But if your product is, say, you're an influencer and you're trying to market yourself, then you are probably asking yourself, okay, Mackenzie, how can I make myself into a DIY project? And the truth is that you can't. But what you can do is show your own DIY projects of what you are doing and how you spend your life. It is basically giving the audience a glimpse into an unconventional way to use your product. So if you are an influencer who always does fashion type influencing and you want to really show people, okay, yes, I am a lot to do with fashion, but here's also how I curl my hair, or here's how I make some of my outfits. This way people get to see a fuller scope of what your product actually is, rather than just the 2D basic thing that everybody already knows about it. So how you can cross-channel promote this idea, this type of content, is on Instagram. Pretty easy. You can do photos and or a video. If you're doing a video, I recommend doing it under 30 seconds or uploading it to Instagram TV and including some sort of microblog with it. On Twitter, it's very simple. Do a tips and tricks. Keep it short, keep it sweet. But in the exact opposite world, on your website, this should be a long-form blog with tons of information, infographics, photos, videos, pull quotes, the whole shebang. This way people can really, who want that information, they can really jump in and get all the information about it. The Instagram and the Twitter is more of a tease and more of a glance over what the DIY project is. Okay, the next idea is a history of. So how did you start making your product? When did you become active in the marketing world? When did you decide to take this from being your day job to being your full-time job? We all have those stories. We all have that grandparent who taught us how to grow the perfect coffee bean, and that's why we make coffee today, or so to speak. Basically, we all have a story. And sometimes we forget that not everybody already knows our story. So it becomes a bit of a challenge when you expect people to know the time and the consideration and the importance of your product, when they don't know who you are or why you care. So doing a history of type of content can be really useful to help introduce yourself to your audience in a deeper way. So on Instagram, you can do this through a photo carousel. A photo carousel is super great to use if you're active on Instagram, because this way when people refresh their feed, your post will go back to the top of their feed and show the second or the third image instead. So basically, it's like giving them a second chance to take a look at your post. It's really great to use for a history of typed content, because then your first photo could be where you are at now with your business, and then the third or fourth photo could be where you started, your garage roots. And guys, even if your business has only been going on for a year, do not shy away from doing a history of type of content, because any story is a story. On Twitter, you are going to do this in a lot simpler and shorter way. You are going to utilize Throwback Thursdays and Flashback Fridays. This way you can get in on another trend that is going on and has been going around for years. Very simple, with a photo and a quick caption explaining it. On your website, again, you could do the blog post we talked about with your DIY product ideas. However, an infographic or a timeline graphic would also suit you very well, just giving your audience all that information that they need when they come to your website, but it's also giving them something a little bit more engaging and interactive to play with. Number 3, a day in the life post. So what are you doing today that you weren't doing yesterday that is involving your product? I mean, for me, something that I'm going to start doing, so please follow us on the GSMC Marketing Podcast, Instagram, and Twitter. I want to show you guys me recording the podcast, because the truth is that I mess up a lot, and there's so much work that goes into recording this that you guys don't get to see, and I think it would be useful and beneficial for you guys to see it, both from a marketing perspective but also a content perspective, because if you're a fan of something, if you enjoy it, then you want to know more about it. And this sort of all actually started with the celebrity culture and then bleeding into the influencer culture of, we like knowing what these people are doing all the time. We find it engaging to see them in their pajamas eating food when we never used to. This is definitely something that social media created for us, because I never used to care who George Clooney was dating, but I definitely care who Taylor Swift is dating. So it's just how social media interacts with the world and allows us a glimpse into people's lives, and now your audience expects a glimpse into your life. So on Instagram, very easy. I just want to see a behind the scenes photo, a quick snapshot of what you're doing throughout your day. So this could be done through Instagram stories. So at the start of the day, here's how you start your day. In the middle of the day, here's what you're doing. And at the end of the day, here's how you end it. Putting it on Instagram stories will serve you better than putting it on your Instagram feed. This way, it's not permanent. It's not a structure on your feed, and it's not going to influence how everyone sees you constantly, because the truth is a day in your life probably changes every single day. So putting it on your Instagram feed allows you then to have it disappear in 24 hours, but you can also still save it on your highlight section. This way people can go back and look at that content and it doesn't go to waste. On Twitter, you can use the same photos that you did on Instagram, but with a longer and more thoughtful caption. So again, updating people throughout the day with what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how it involves and how it affects your product and your marketing. Now, on the website, I want you to do a vlog. That is V for Victoria, not B for Bennett. A vlog will actually allow people to see your full day in fruition. So from the time you wake up and you start filming to the time you put the camera away. So this will obviously take a lot more time, and you're probably wondering, hey, Mackenzie, you know what I don't want to do? I don't want to spend my whole day filming for both Instagram stories, getting photos for Twitter, and doing this whole video. The truth is, all you have to do is the video, and then the next day cut the video into small pieces, take screenshots from the video for the other platforms. This way you are not getting tired out. And guys, the thing I have to say that perhaps it isn't obvious, but I'll say it anyways. the day you film your day in the life video does not have to be the day you post it. It does not have to be live. You could film it on a Tuesday and not post it for a month. Nobody's going to know what day it is. So take your time with editing, take your time in post, and really enjoy the process of creating this content. Number 4, behind the scenes. So now you're probably asking, again, Mackenzie, you wingnut, you just said you were doing a day in the life, and now you're saying behind the scenes. What's the difference? There's a lot of things that are different with a behind the scenes post versus a day in the life post. A day in the life is really a point of view as to what you're doing and why you're doing it and how it impacts your product. Behind the scenes is more, here's what it takes to create the content that you enjoy. Here's what it takes to create the product you use. So a behind the scenes could be, if again you make coffee, it could be how you make the coffee, how you package the coffee, how you sell the coffee, and how you use the coffee. So on Instagram, again, I really want you to utilize Instagram stories, and then definitely this time save it as a highlight, a behind the scenes highlight. This way, when new people come to see your product, they can take a look at it and go, oh wow, this is how this product gets made. This is all the work. This is the team. These are the people involved. All of that is super important for your audience to know. This way they can engage with it on a deeper level. Twitter should be a sneak peek shot of what you are working on currently. Very short, very sweet. Do not make it a long, lengthy caption, but it's basically just a tease of what is going to come next. On your website, it is actually the exact opposite of Twitter. You want to do an in-depth look as to what is coming next. If you make coffee and it is August and you know you're coming out with an October roast that is going to be Halloween themed, then start pumping it up now on your website. You don't want to pump it up on social media because people are going to expect it tomorrow, but on your website is where people want to look ahead for the future. So take your time on that, really writing it out and really getting people ready to be pumped for this new product launch. Okay, everyone, we are going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast, but when we come back, we will be jumping right back in with more content ideas. So stay tuned for more of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you again. Black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. We are going to have so much fun talking about these content ideas. I think the hardest thing when it comes to marketing sometimes really is, how do I create something new and interesting and will engage my audience, but also promote my product while also being relatively cost effective, use my time appropriately while still getting the results that I want. And the truth is that if you don't have a multi-million-dollar media company supporting you or a marketing team of more than 5 people, it can be very, very hard to get the results you're looking for, but not impossible. And something that we try to do on this podcast is really give you ideas for how you can create those big marketing ideas with your budget and with your time restraint and with your team and resources. So what we're talking about on today's episode is different ideas that I have come up with for you guys that you can use on both Instagram, Twitter, and on your website. Your website could also be turned into Facebook if you don't have a website. And the real purpose of this episode is that you'll spend the time, the money, and the resources creating the product, but then you will post it on Instagram, Twitter, and on your website, just in different forms. This way you can really get all these ideas out and into your environment and for your audience to enjoy without putting in time and effort into thinking of, okay, what do I have to post on Instagram? What do I have to post on Twitter? What should I do on my website? It is one idea done 3 different ways. And we did a similar podcast called Reduce, Reuse, and Reuse Marketing, where I gave you different things that could be used across all platforms. You could take a blog and turn it into a microblog, or read it out loud and turn it into a video. This is a little bit different because it's really just the idea that stays the same. You are actually turning it into 3 different types of content. This way your audience never feels duped or tricked or like they're getting spoon-fed information rather than choosing to eat it. I know that was a bit of a weird metaphor, but I think it really works for marketing because I feel like that's what we're doing. We're trying to supply the audience with the food that they need, the energy that they need to buy our product, the information that is required to understand why we're better than the competition. But the truth is, if they think you're the healthier choice or just the cheaper choice, they might not pick you. You need to tell them why you're the best product out there, why you are truly better. And so all of these ideas really do reflect that mindset and will hopefully help you emphasize that in your product. But guys, just as a side note, I would love for everybody right now in the reviews or reach out through social media. First of all, we are about to get very, very active on Instagram. We've never had an Instagram before, or at least not an active one. And we got posts coming Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We're going to be super interactive over there. So please go over there, check us out. And what I'd love to do, if you are listening to this part in the podcast, I would love for you to tell me what has been the biggest struggle working from home during the coronavirus pandemic. Obviously, a lot of places, the lockdown is over. For a lot of places, maybe they're in the middle of like opening things back up, or it's still far away for some places as well. I'm here in Seattle. Some bars are opening up. I am still working from home. I am still clearly recording this podcast from home. So please forgive any background noise that you hear. But guys, I'm really settling in. I got a pretty nice setup going on here. If you want to see my setup and then show me your stay-at-home work setup, head over to the Instagram, our Twitter, and our Facebook to check us out over there. For now, though, let's jump right back in with some more ideas. Number 5, how to use your product. Now, this might seem silly, and again, you might be like, okay, I sell bed sheets. If people don't know how to use bed sheets, what are they doing? But here's what I want you to do. I want you to put a spin on how to use your product. I want you to show people how you use your product. Do you yourself sleep on the bed sheets? And if so, how has it impacted your sleep? How has it impacted your general bedroom aesthetic? Tell people why you choose your product over the competition. This way you'll add a bit of a personal touch to the content that you're creating and allow your audience to see into your world. And if they're anything like you, or if they want to be anything like you, they will gladly pick your product over the competition because they're thinking, oh my goodness, I am the exact same as her or him, or I want to be like that, or I want to do that. I want to have a better night's sleep. So on Instagram, I'm going to go ahead and suggest that this is an Instagram TV post or a microblog post. Now, I talked about on a different episode where we talked about the Instagram algorithm, what a microblog was, but just as a quick refresher, a microblog is very simply as easy as it sounds. It is a blog in short form. You're going to break up your content using cute emojis and spacing, and basically it's one photo that tells a very long story. The reason you want to do this is because the Instagram algorithm favors microblogging. They like posts that allow people to stay on the site for longer. And a microblog does just that. Rather than reading a very short caption, people are interested and captivated by your microblog. So they want to spend the time and the effort and the energy reading it. And Instagram will reward you for that. However, on Twitter, you just want to do quick snapshots in a photo series of how you use your product, again, with a very short and sweet caption rather than the microblog. People on Twitter are not looking to spend an in-depth amount of time reading about how you use your product. If you can show them how you use it at a glance, you will benefit from that reaction more. On your website, I've definitely already suggested this a few times, but the truth is, guys, your website is your blogs. People love getting in there and reading all the information they can about your product in a blog form. Just make sure that you combine the elements from your Instagram TV video, your microblog, and those photos you're taking for Twitter. Make it interactive. Don't just have it one long, boring post, a whole bunch of text. People need that little bit of extra flavor of engagement so that they can truly feel like they are being entertained while being educated. Idea number 6, testimonials. Guys, let me tell you right now, if you currently do not have any testimonials, even getting one 10-minute testimonial could give you an entire year's worth of content. You can take a testimonial and you can turn it into so many different things. And I talked about that very, very in depth on the Reduce, Reuse, and Reuse marketing episode. But just know that if you get that 10-minute clip of somebody nonstop talking about how much they love and adore your product, then you can turn that into an infographic. You can turn it into a pull quote. You can turn it into a photo with a caption. You can turn it into a microblog. You can put the whole video on Instagram. You could do snapshots on Instagram. So on Instagram, what you're going to do is you're going to post clips of the video under 30 seconds. Do not utilize Instagram TV for this one because you'll waste all that great content you have on one very long post that people will not watch the full thing of. Keep it under 30 seconds and make sure you have subtitles. Guys, subtitles are a pain in the butt to make. However, people don't listen to their phone or go through social media with the volume up, and they don't always have headphones on. So keeping it under 30 seconds with subtitles will allow people to actually enjoy it, even if they don't have the time or patience to watch a full video and they don't have the ability to turn the volume up. On your Twitter, you want to utilize pull quotes. And guys, as silly as it sounds, I want you to make it pretty. Do not just put quotations around, I love the coffee here. No, I want it lit up. I want your brand colors. I want a logo. I want their name and where they're from and how long they've been your customer for. Make it pretty so that people will actually read the pull quote and take it seriously as a piece of content. The final thing you're going to do for your website is where you are going to post the full interview. And you're also going to transcribe the interview and post it in a blog. Again, your website is where people are going when they want a lot of information. They're not going to your website to just get like a quick little snapshot of what your product is. That is what social media is for. If you're using social media correctly, perhaps you will tease them enough that they want to go to your website and experience the full thing or get more information. So once they're there, you want to give them more information and you want to share the details about your product, which is why posting the full interview, the full testimonial there is totally appropriate. Okay, everyone, we are going to go ahead and take another break from the podcast, but when we come back, we will be getting into some more great content ideas. So stay tuned for more of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And let me just stop you right there. We are about to get into one of my personal favorite episodes. I loved creating this for you guys. I really hope you enjoy listening to it and you actually benefit from it, and that it gives you some really great content ideas, because that is the point of this podcast. I want to give you guys really great marketing tips. We want to talk about the marketing world, and I want to help you improve your marketing strategy and your marketing content. And I guess that really is a reflection of the level of work that goes into the GSMC Podcast Network. I obviously love my podcast, and I think it's great, and I think it's one of my favorites for sure. But outside of the marketing podcast, the GSMC Podcast Network has so much amazing content for you, the audience. If you are interested in marketing and you want to know more about the social media world, we have a social media podcast where we talk about more of the in-depth look at social media and the trends that are happening in that digital world over there. If right now you're in the middle of the coronavirus lockdown, or you are perhaps on your way to work and you know you have a long commute and you're looking for a bit of a source of entertainment that is going to be consistent but also quality, we have so many other fun and entertaining podcasts. There's the entertainment podcast, there's the TV podcast, there's the book podcast. Really, guys, you cannot go wrong by just heading over there and checking out how many podcasts we actually truly have, because it will astonish you just at the amount of work and commitment that goes into creating this content. I know the hosts, and I know all of them take such pride and such joy in creating this content for you that they want you to enjoy it. So head over there, check out our full range of our podcasts, and just let me know your thoughts, because I would personally love to get some more recommendations on podcasts. I right now have been enjoying the book podcast as well as the tech podcast. Again, I did also used to host the tech podcast, but Ben has taken over and he is doing a great job, and I love listening to his tech news. So enough talking about how amazing, incredible, fantastic the GSMC Podcast Network is. Let's jump right back into our content ideas. Number 7, fun facts. So fun facts are a great way to give your audience a quick little tidbit of information that they can hold on to for the rest of the day. And by them holding on to it for the rest of the day, they're holding on to you and your brand for the rest of the day. So the number one rule with a fun fact post or a fun fact piece of content is that 1, it actually has to be fun. 2, it actually has to be interesting and helpful. And 3, please do not forget it has to actually involve your product, or at least the product you are selling. It doesn't have to directly involve you and your company, but if you make coffee, make it a fun fact about coffee. So on Instagram, what you're going to do is you're going to make a fun little graphic image that talks about the fun fact. If you have the ability, if you have the knowledge, the know-how, the resources, perhaps even a team member who is able to edit together a stop motion infographic type thing for your Instagram and keep it under 30 seconds, then please do that. I so guarantee you will use it again. You will put it on Instagram, you'll put it on Twitter, and you'll put it on your website. But if you don't have those resources, you can totally use an app. Heck, you can even use Paint or Canva to create a really fun graphic image that supports your fun fact. On Twitter, you still want to make it pretty and you want to make it fun, but there's definitely a little bit more in-depth information going on there, and you're going to write it in the caption and perhaps just have a photo of your product. On your website, you are going to use an infographic. Guys, infographics can be a pain in the rear to make. However, they totally pay off. People love interacting with infographics. It gives them all the information they need in a stylish and easily digestible way. So definitely spend the time, spend the effort, and spend the energy creating an infographic, because if you go listen to the other podcast episode, the Reduce, Reuse, and Reuse marketing episode, we actually talk about the different ways you can reuse an infographic. So it's worth the time, it's worth the energy, and it's worth the effort, I promise. Just actually create one and make sure it looks good. Number 8, products that you love. So guys, there is a fine line here, because I don't want you promoting other companies all the time. Obviously, the point of all of this is to promote your own company, but people have a real problem with just buying from a company. They want to know they're buying from a person, and a person has more than one interest and more than one like and more than one product or more than one company that they buy that product from. So the rule with this, the number one rule is, do not promote another company that is selling the same product as you. However, if you sell clothing, a great product for you to promote would be accessories if you don't make accessories, or shoes if you don't make shoes, or hair or makeup, or any sort of ensemble thing that will go with your clothing would help work with your product, but isn't competing with your product. And so on Instagram, what you're going to do is stories, but do not keep them on your feed and do not highlight them. Do them very quick throughout the day, maybe even one a week if you have the ability to do that, one a day if you have that many products that work well and mesh well with yours. But don't keep them on your stories and don't keep them in your highlights for too long, because, again, you do not want to be promoting other people's products so much that it overpowers your product. On Twitter, very simple. You are not going to be writing any tweets. You are simply going to be retweeting. This is a two-hitter here, because one, you'll get to be showing people you're a human. These are products that I use that go well with my product. But two, you are also engaging in networking and connecting with a company that you think you can work well with. So you're already starting that basis of, hey, maybe we can connect. Maybe there's a potential giveaway or a potential partnership in our future. Clearly, you are building a relationship. And for your website, what you can do, I've already given you the idea a few times, but a vlog. So as you're going through your day in your life vlog, mention the other products that you use and that you like. But again, do not make it the full purpose of the vlog. Again, that should be showing you and your company and your product. But a vlog is a great way to slip in other products that you love. Again, I just want to reiterate, you really do want to make sure the products you are suggesting they're going to mesh well with your product. They're not so out of left field, but they're not so similar that they compete. And also make sure you look into the company to make sure that your values actually align and you're not promoting something that you wouldn't want your audience also buying from. Number 9, your team's story. Your team, they are the backbone of the operation. You probably get a lot of the credit because it's your product, your company. You're the one listening to this podcast, trying to put in that extra level of work to help boost engagement and help create content. But the truth is that your team is doing the background work and they deserve their chance in the spotlight. And not only that, people want to know about the backbone of your company. So on Instagram, very simple, a photo with a short microblog bio. Keep it simple with their likes and their interests and when they started in the company. Do not write on and on about them here. We will get to where you can do that in a moment. On Twitter, you want to do their photos with the short bios. Again, feel free to take this straight from Instagram and just reuse that content. On your website, this is going to be the long form bios where they can talk about why they love your product, why they started working for your company, how they use the product, other products that they love. You can really get into in-depth interviews with your team on this website through a blog, because this way people are clearly going there to learn more about the team. Finally, number 10, I want you to write your story. We heard the teams, so we know who the backbone is, but who is the heart? Why are you doing this? So on Instagram, the easiest way to do this is to be real and do an Instagram live. That way it's all real and organic and raw. You are answering questions as they come and you are telling your story as it comes to you. On Twitter, feel free not to go live because nobody watches live Twitter videos anymore, but do some short micro blogs just telling people your story and where you came from. Again, this is very different from the history of that I recommended earlier because this is a little bit more of the heart and the emotion behind your company. On your website, you can do a long blog post and bio, but I recommend attaching a video story with this that was produced and not live. This way people, if they don't read it, they can watch it instead. Okay, everyone, that is it for tonight's episode of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the GSMC Marketing News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to any podcast app, and you'll find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, you'll find it all on the GSMC Podcast Network. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.